Hello friends, welcome back to our channel NEET Biology Expert. I am Dr. Parveen. In this lecture series, we are studying Class 12 Biology, Chapter Reproductive Health. In this lesson, we are going to study about viral sexually transmitted infection, particularly hepatitis B and AIDS. Okay, so let's see the first infection, hepatitis B. What is hepatitis B? Hepatitis B is a serious liver infection. Serious liver infection. So by the name we could see hepatitis. Hepatitis. Okay. So in biology, anything which ends with its is called as inflammation. Inflammation. Right. So example, conjunctivitis, meningitis, okay, bronchitis. So anything which ends with its, we could say inflammation in that particular region. So where inflammation is occurring? Inflammation is occurring in the liver. So hepatic means liver. So inflammation in the liver is called as hepatitis. So this is a serious liver infection caused by the virus. So the causative agent for hepatitis B infection is a virus called hepatitis B virus. In short form, we call this as HBV, hepatitis B virus. Okay. This virus is a double-stranded DNA virus. We know that viruses has either DNA or RNA, not both. So viruses will have either single-stranded DNA or double-stranded DNA, single-stranded RNA or double-stranded RNA, any one. So like that, hepatitis B virus has double-stranded DNA, right? So let us see the mode of transmission, how this virus spreads. So this is a sexually transmitted infection. So the major route of transmission is through the sexual intercourse. Not only through the sexual intercourse, so anything related to blood and blood products. Okay. So direct contact with the infected blood. So who will have direct contact with the infected blood? For example, the lab technicians, the doctors, nurses. Okay. So the people handling the hepatitis B patient, if those contaminated blood sample get exposed, they may have the risk for developing this infection. Or the infection spreads from mother to the baby during the birth. So this type of infection, the infection which spreads from mother to the child, that infection is called as vertical transmission. Vertical transmission. Okay. So infection spreads from mother to the baby, to the fetus. Or the infection spreads from any contaminated needles, syringes, for example, ear piercing needles. Tattoo. So when we put tattoo, they use needles, right? So that contaminated needles. While shaving, sharing the shaving razors. Okay, so while shaving, what happens sometimes there will be cut. So that cut will have blood, right? So that blood will be present in the shaving razor. So if any other person shares the common razor, he may also get this infection. So like this, it spreads through direct sexual contact from mother to the child or through sharing the blood and blood related contaminated products, right? Okay, so what is the incubation period? The incubation period for the hepatitis B infection is 30 to 80 days maximum. So let us see what are the symptoms of this infection. So we should know here that hepatitis B infection do not show any prominent symptoms up to 6 months. This is important. That means if even the virus is present in the body of a patient or a person, it will not show any symptoms up to 1 to 6 months. Okay. So after it quietly multiplies and it causes its damage, then only it shows its symptoms. Okay, right? So it depends upon the immunity of a person also. If a person is highly immune, he will not have symptoms for maximum 6 months also. If his immunity is a little moderate, he will have symptoms after 4 months. So like this, it depends upon the immunity of a person also, right? Fine. So if the symptoms develop, what are the symptoms? The patient will experience fatigue. Fatigue means complete tiredness in the body. All over the body, they will feel tired. Okay. And there will be dark colored urine, muscle and the joint pain. Okay. Loss of appetite. The patient won't feel hungry. They won't eat properly because the hunger sensation, hunger pangs reduces. Fever will be there, discomfort in the abdomen, weakness, okay, and particularly a most important symptom is yellowing yellowing of the whites of the eye, that is called sclera, and the skin. So after this symptoms comes only, many people they recognize that they have been infected. Okay, so this is called jaundice. Jaundice means the eye of the patient, look the picture here, see, the eye of the patient turns yellow in color. The skin of the patient turns yellow in color. The urine will be dark yellow in color. This condition is called jaundice. Jaundice is a symptom or an infection in the liver. Okay, so there are many reasons for jaundice, and one reason for jaundice is hepatitis B viral infection. Clear? Then at the chronic stages, the liver cirrhosis occurs and it leads to hepatocellular carcinoma. So we know that initial stage there won't be any symptoms. At that stage, the patient will have acute infection. Okay, so later it develops into chronic infection. In the chronic stage, what will happen? The patient will have cirrhosis of the liver. So what is liver cirrhosis? The cells of the liver cells get damaged. It won't functions properly. So this condition is called liver cirrhosis. Even if he won't get any treatment in this stage, or if it is not controllable, it may lead to the next stage, that is called hepatocellular carcinoma. That means liver cancer occurs. So at this stage, completely liver fails to work. Okay, so look at this picture. This is a normal healthy liver, and this is a liver with fibrosis, then liver with cirrhosis. Okay, and this is the liver with cancer, right? So the stages, these are the different stages of hepatitis B infection. So if a patient attains liver cirrhosis and liver cancer, it is highly difficult to cure after this stage. Okay, right? Fine. So let us learn how we diagnose hepatitis B in the laboratory. So laboratory diagnosis of hepatitis B infection in this stage, the doctor will collect the patient blood sample and we separate the serum. After separation of the serum, let me draw here. So we collect the patient blood sample and separate the serum after centrifuge. And we look for hepatitis B surface antigen in the patient serum. Okay. So what is hepatitis B surface antigen? We know that every microorganism has a specific antigen. Antigen, what is antigen? Antigen is a substance which induces antibody in the body, right? So antigens are generally proteins. Sometimes it will be glycoproteins like this. So every organism has an antigen. So here, this is the hepatitis B virus. Here you could see here these red color structures. So these are the viral surface antigen. This we call as hepatitis B surface antigen. So if a patient has acute infection, this hepatitis B surface antigen will be present in his blood. We are detecting that one. Okay, so that test is called hepatitis B surface antigen screening test. So if this comes positive, means the patient is having now active infection. That is, presently he is having the infection. The virus is multiplying in his cells, right? So this is one laboratory test. And second one is to detect the antibodies. So against the virus, our body produce IgG and IgM antibodies. So we detect the antibody from the patient serum. Okay, so that will be done by ELISA, enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. So these are the two good tests for the laboratory diagnosis of hepatitis. Particularly, we detect antigens, right? So the first test is to detect antigen, and second test, ELISA, is to detect antibodies. Okay, so what is the treatment for the hepatitis B infection? If this is an acute infection, most people will overcome the infection on their own. That means no treatment is needed for many people. Their own immunity, own immune system will take over the function and it will kill the virus. Okay. For example, if the patient is already having a liver problem or already having a low immunity, so like this, any other complication is there, that time treatment is needed. Or if a patient is having chronic hepatitis, that time treatment is needed. Okay. And here antiviral medications we use for the chronic treatment. And if the liver is completely damaged, that means if the liver is in the cirrhosis stage or in the cancerous stage, that time treatment will not be effective. The patient needs compulsorily transplantation. Okay, so liver transplantation is needed if it is severely damaged. So these are the treatment methods. And how to prevent hepatitis infection? Hepatitis B infection could be preventable, highly preventable, using vaccine, recombinant vaccine. This recombinant vaccine is made up of using the hepatitis B surface antigen only. Okay, I told you, this one, hepatitis B surface antigen. The same hepatitis B surface antigen is produced by recombinant DNA technology, and it is used as a vaccine called recombinant DNA vaccine. So that is injected, okay, Recombivax for babies. At what stage? 0 months. Okay, for the newborn babies, we give this vaccine in 3 doses: 0 month, and in 1 month, and in around 6 months. Okay, in 3 doses we give this vaccine. This hepatitis B vaccine is present in our Indian vaccination schedule. Okay, routinely we give this vaccine. And we should also know here that hepatitis is the inflammation of the liver, right? So this inflammation is caused by 5 different types of viruses. They are called as hepatitis A virus, hepatitis B virus, C virus, D virus, and E virus. All 5 are 5 different types of virus. They are not connected with each other, different family of viruses. Okay, here hepatitis A and E, these 2 viruses, they spread through contaminated food and water. Okay, so that is their mode of spreading. Whereas hepatitis B and C and D, these 3 viruses, they spread through blood products, and through sexual intercourse. That means blood-borne infection. So out of this, hepatitis B causes severe infection. Clear? So you should remember here that not only hepatitis B virus causes sexually transmitted infection, C and D also causes sexually transmitted infection. Whereas infection caused by hepatitis B virus is severe compared to the other 2. Okay. So this is all about hepatitis B virus. So our next viral sexually transmitted infection is AIDS. Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. That is the full form for AIDS, right? So what is AIDS? AIDS is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Okay, so this is the full form for AIDS. So what is the causative agent? This is caused by a virus called human immunodeficiency virus, in short form HIV. You should not tell HIV virus, because V stands for virus, right? So you should tell HIV, right? So AIDS is caused by HIV. So how it spreads? The mode of transmission is through sexual contact with the infected person. So that is the major route of transmission. And apart from that, same like hepatitis B virus, contact with the infected blood and blood products of the person, and sharing the infected needles. Okay, intravenous drug abuses. The people using drugs, heroin, cocaine and all, they have the common needle where they share the needle with their friends gang. Okay? So if one person in the gang has been infected with the AIDS, so that needle carries a small drop of blood. Even that small drop of blood is enough to transmit the infection. So via that needle, the infection spreads through the other people. That is called intravenous drug abuses. And from the mother to her child through the placenta, the virus crosses the placenta. Okay, transplacental infection, AIDS. So these are the modes of transmission. And what is the incubation period? The incubation period for AIDS is highly variable. For some people it is 2 weeks, for some people 6 weeks, for some people even 10 years. So it depends upon the immunity of a person. Okay, so if he is having very poor immunity, within 2 weeks the virus could cause the infection. If he is having some strong immunity, maybe it takes 10 years. After the virus enter in the body, it could even take up to 10 years to show its symptoms. So that's why it's highly variable. Okay, right. Let us see what are the symptoms of the AIDS. So we know that AIDS virus, after it enters the body, where it goes and affects the T4 lymphocytes. T4 lymphocytes. Okay, this T4 lymphocytes is also called as T helper cells. So what are these cells? These are a type of WBC, white blood cells. So the virus go and affect this T helper cell itself. The T helper cell is called the police force of our body. It gives immunity. It protects our body from the foreign pathogens. Now, when the AIDS virus is entering the body, it enters directly into the T helper cell. Okay, so here the basic immunity itself is getting disturbed. So that's why the patient will have decreased immunity. Why decreased immunity? Because the immune giving cells, that means the T4 cells are getting affected, right? The patient will have very less immunity. So any organism, see, we have been surrounded by different microorganisms. We are surrounded by different microorganisms, air, water, everywhere we have microorganisms. So if our immune system is strong enough, it will not affect us, though it enters our body. If our immune system is weakened, then any XYZ organism could able to cause infection. So that is the problem occurring in the AIDS patient. So that's why we call this as acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Here we say a syndrome. What is syndrome? Symptoms means one symptom. One headache, vomiting, diarrhea, these are symptoms. Syndrome means group of symptoms. More symptoms together is called as syndrome. Okay, so AIDS patient will have more symptoms. That means syndromes will be present. First, they will have enlarged lymph nodes. We have lymph nodes, right? So the lymphatic system has lymph nodes. The lymph nodes has this WBC cells. So since this virus go and affects the T4 cells or the WBC cells, it get enlarged. The lymph nodes get enlarged. Okay, so lymph nodes present here. The cervical lymph nodes, axillary lymph nodes, groin lymph nodes, inguinal lymph nodes, all the lymph nodes get enlarged. Okay, prolonged fever. The patient will have fever for a long period of time and diarrhea that lasts for more than a week, continuous diarrhea. Because the healthy bacteria, the good bacteria present in the our gut, our intestine, those bacteria, they do good for our body. They produce vitamin K. They protect our body from any foreign pathogens like this. If our immunity is strong. But if our immunity weakens, what happens? Those normal flora itself becomes a pathogenic bacteria. That is called opportunistic infection. Opportunistic infection. That means infection. That means if the immune system, immunity of a patient decreases, the normal flora becomes a pathogen. The good bacteria turns into a bad bacteria. Okay. So that's why it results in diarrhea. Sores means infection in the mouth, anus, genital region will be there. Rashes will be there. Okay. Pneumonia, lung infections will be there. Particularly AIDS patient will have tuberculosis. Okay. And weight reduction will be there, night sweating. So many, not one or two, many symptoms will be there for AIDS patient. That's why we call this as syndrome. Okay, right? So we know this, the virus attached to the T helper cell and fuses with the DNA of the T helper cell and it controls the functions of the T helper cell. That's why the patient is prone to more infections. Okay, clear? Right. So how to diagnose AIDS? How we diagnose AIDS in the laboratory? So once the doctor sees the history of the patient, the symptoms of the patients and all, we will look by screening the antibodies for the HIV. Okay, so screening antibodies using the first one is ELISA test. So here we screen IgG or IgM antibodies using the ELISA test. So if this comes positive, then we go for the next test, that is the confirmatory test using the Western blot. So Western blot will not be done at the first stage. First stage is ELISA. So if antibodies are there, if ELISA test for HIV screening is positive, then we do the confirmatory test. Even we have strip, you know how we do for pregnancy test. Some strip will be there, no, which gives a positive stripes. So even we have strip test for HIV. Okay. So these are basic diagnostic tests, but confirmatory test is Western blot, right? What are the treatment for AIDS? We know that there is no treatment for AIDS so far, no specific treatment. But some antiretroviral medications are given to patients. They have only partial effect. So why we are giving this antiretroviral drugs? To reduce their symptoms. If they have diarrhea, it will control the diarrhea. If they have skin rashes, it will control the rashes. Okay, like this, some symptoms will be reduced, but those drugs will not completely kill the virus or cure the patient from the AIDS infection. So once he is infected, that's it, he is infected. Okay, treatment is not there, but we could give this antiretroviral therapy to extend the lifespan of the patient. Okay, so the antiretroviral therapy includes zidovudine, azidothymidine, in short form AZT, lamivudine, etc. So they increase the lifespan of the patient. Okay, right? So rather treatment, the important thing is prevention. Prevention is better than cure. So that is highly applicable in case of sexually transmitted infections. Okay, particularly AIDS. So follow safe blood transfusion. When we give blood to the patient, transfusion, so the donors will be screened for all the sexually transmitted or blood-borne infections like hepatitis, HIV, like this screening test. Okay, and disposable needles. So every time now, everywhere we are following this single time disposable needles are used. In olden days and all, you see some 10-15 years before and all, in clinics they use glass needles. So they will have a these are like this. Okay, so hot water will be there. So every time after one patient gets a injection, they will put the glass needle in the hot water, boil it, and then they will use for the second patient. Okay, so now this practice is not there. We are using single time disposable needles everywhere. Okay, using condoms. So condoms is highly important to prevent sexually transmitted infections and prevent drug abuse. Okay, drug abuse, sharing of the common needles. So these are the things we must take care to prevent AIDS. Clear? So I hope this lecture is clear for you. Our next lesson will be about fungal and protozoan sexually transmitted infection. So if you like this lecture, please comment, like, share and subscribe to our channel NEET Biology Expert. Thank you.